Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of our podcast series STEM Adventures. I'm your host Owais, Nabi, and we have two brilliant guests, Ali Idrees and Essa. Let's have an introduction.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Ali Idrees and I'm doing my O-levels currently from Crescent Model Higher Secondary School. And that's it, I'll pass it on to Essa.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Essa Safdar and I've been on this podcast for a second time now, and I'm also doing my O-levels from Beacon House and CS, computer sciences.
So my name is Owais Nabi. I am 11 years old and I am in 6th grade and I study from Lahore. So today's subject is why do we even go to school? So Ali, can you tell a little bit about the subject?
So the thing is, the subject, why do we even go to school? We need to understand the history of schools, like how they actually started first. So the first formal schools ever were introduced in ancient Rome, ancient Egypt, ancient China and ancient India. And only some people were allowed to go to these schools, and these were the three R's: the royalty, the rich and the religious leaders. And also it was Plato's idea that mandatory education should be enforced, and later on the idea gained some momentum. And the first ever university was formed in 1769, the Al-Karamein University, and that still is there, and so people are taking their education from there. And in Europe, most of schools were Christian schools.
Also, just to interject, the first ever university was actually created by Muslim women who thought that men and women should be given the same chances as to get jobs, and hence they should have higher educations. So through that, she actually made the first ever university, which was made, I think.
And then in 1179, the Catholic Church gave a law for giving poor people free education. And after that, university started to spread throughout the Middle Ages, and Plato's idea of mandatory education began to gain some momentum. Across the ocean in the modern day Mexico.
Also, another thing, we can't actually compare all of these schools. We can't compare them to our modern day schools, mostly because of one big difference. Okay, our modern day schools are all based around grades and degrees, but the ancient schools were actually based on religion. For example, I talked about the Catholic Church. They were based on religious studies, and also furthermore actual skills that you need to learn. For example, the schools in ancient Egypt, they talked about history, religion, and actual craftsmanship and blacksmith. All of these things were taught in schools. But nowadays, of course, we've switched to more sophisticated subjects like English, etc.
I don't think so, because the first universities, students, they studied mainly specialized in subjects like arts, law, theology or medicine. So it's not like their subjects were about only religious matters.
So a question that I have is, back in the day, there was just one way to study, to go to school, but these days there are platforms from which you can gain knowledge. So why is it still so why do you still have to physically go to school?
Okay, so I don't have answer for that. Nowadays, studying isn't necessarily just about learning something or getting education. Now it's about socializing, meeting new people, getting trying different things, trying new sports, joining matches. Those are things that you can't actually do online. You can't meet new people, you can't hang out with people, you can't do sports online. So I think school is more of not necessarily only for education, but for also other aspects of life. Yeah, socializing.
Okay, so another question that I have is that why is school important for our future?
Schools are important for our futures because if we study, we get degrees, we have a 100% chance of getting jobs and providing something for our families as well. But other than that, like sports, there is not a 100% chance of we getting selected in internationally or nationally in a sports because it's not so guaranteed. But education is guaranteed. We get jobs. We can get jobs after we study. So that's the simple idea. That's why we go to schools.
So going back to the point that Ali said before this, I kind of disagree with schools being as helpful for our future, because yes, we do get degrees, but that does not at all mean that you get 100% chances of jobs.
But
Not at all. There's people with very good degrees that don't have jobs.
But
So it's always better to like always have a backup plan or skills with you, sharpen your skills in school, so that you do have a plan your own future rather than relying on like a school or a degree completely.
So, for example, if a person plays games a lot, if a person wants a profession in cricket, so he cannot completely focus on cricket because there are studies he needs to do, and if he focuses on the studies, he can do good in the cricket. So, the most probably the student would choose study over cricket because there is more probability of you getting money and you getting a job in the future, whereas if you choose to cricket.
Yes, but that also highlights one of the another problems of school. Okay, for example, I want to specialize in computer sciences, but I also have to study chemistry, which I have like not at all linked with computer sciences. But I also need to get good marks in chemistry so that I can go to better universities. That's a problem that I think is in every school. Okay, you need to study subjects that you do not need in your future life at all, which also burdenizes you. But I think it also opens up more pathways for you. For example, if I do get like good marks in chemistry, I can choose a path or a career in chemistry, physics, or computer sciences as well.
Okay,
So it's
like
two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, so the thing that you just said, I also had that query in mind, and I asked from my father. He told me that if you want to specialize in computer science, what if you don't do it? What if you don't get what if you don't pass the admission test in engineering college? What happens? Then you might have some knowledge of chemistry you have studied till college level, and you would be able to recover yourself and go into chemistry or bio.
or even math, because like math is
and even maths. So they do open ways, and they act as a backup plan, as you said. So they do act as a backup.
So I have a question. Like all of these famous companies, the owner of Microsoft, the owner of Apple, Facebook, all of these were uneducated. Either they were school dropouts or they never even went to school. So why is it compulsion for us to go to school? Can't we also drop out?
See, there's a loophole there. These people didn't drop out of school.
They did drop out of colleges and universities.
Yes, but like they didn't do it because they didn't want to get education. They did it because the level of education in that particular school level wasn't of like what they needed.
Or it was
like,
because
Albert Einstein also like dropped out of school, but it wasn't because he didn't want to study. It was because the school was very like less of a level of like study that he needed. That's why he like became private. That's why he started studying privately. So did like Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates.
And
Here comes another argument of mine. So like the owner of Samsung, he was very poor then, but like, and so he couldn't go to school. So how did he learn? And he learned all of this like mechanical engineering, about technology, and then he made phones. Then can't we also drop out of school and then like get education like that?
But most people, most students are not that much brilliant. People need mentors. They need people to teach them in person. Not everyone can understand from watching others. They need to be understood. So
Not
every
every-
person is different.
You can another issue in this like same area is Islamiyat. Like I'm not saying Islamiyat is the issue. The way it's taught. Like we need to learn Islam, of course. But आजकल in schools it's taught in a way कि सब कुछ रट्टा मार लो. That makes kids hate that subject.
Yes.
A lot of like even my friends, they don't like रट्टा मारना पूरी books, especially in metric and O level both. आपका like Islamiyat के लिए you have to memorize 2 to 3 books में every question word to word. That's not how it should be taught. It should be taught in like a more interactive way.
Yes.
With better teachers, not कि सब कुछ रट्टा मार लो. That makes students not like it.
Yeah,
It doesn't make them interested in it.
So how can we promote Urdu in such a way that it's interactive and kids start liking?
I just told you that, like how the language becomes famous and how the people want to learn a language, and we can make it interactive.
No, like-
everything. This is done, but people do not focus on the area. No one likes to read a Urdu novel. No one does, but we should.
Yeah.
So
We should
but
be
I also
interactive
think
about
that another reason of how this should be made more interesting and more interactive for kids is like other than तशरीह या फिर in my case Urdu A में तजाती सवाल which you have to like 5 pages याद करना. I'm not gonna do that. So But the important thing is that rather than doing that, we need to teach the history of Urdu. So now the only history that I know of Urdu like ever, वो मैंने history की book से पढ़ी, like हमारी Pak studies की book से. It's not in the Urdu subject कि उसकी history क्या है, who like started it, who promoted it, nothing at all. So for sort of like we sometimes read stories about very good, like sometimes very good poetry, sometimes very good stories. Those are good, but then like उनको रट्टा में बदल देना, it really just destroys their whole maqsad and not necessarily makes them more interesting. So I think telling us the story of how Urdu progressed will make it more interesting for children to know.
So you do like आपके O-levels के अंदर which Urdu is Urdu A1 or Urdu B?
Oh yeah, that's a very like common dilemma between children.
Yeah,
because Urdu A or Urdu B.
Because I think mine is Urdu B, and there is nothing like doing tashri or remembering questions. It's only it's just comprehension, story writing, and
Urdu B is
translation.
Urdu B.
My Urdu is way easier than the tashri one.
A lot of students think that Urdu B is easier, but the problem is that on the long run, Urdu B is maybe easier and like CIS के ज़्यादा easy होते हैं. But I think like Urdu A has more value than Urdu B because it being harder. Like for example, आप federal board से अगर exam दो, वहाँ से पंजाब board से दो, तो federal board की value कम है, पंजाब board की ज़्यादा है, because पंजाब board is harder. इसी तरह Urdu B का threshold, like for example threshold 98% था, which means कि the request paper is very easy. इसलिए बच्चों के 98% was the average marks. मतलब कि उसकी value भी बहुत कम रह जाती है.
But do you think कि तुम्हारा दिल करेगा तशरीह करना या doing the comprehension?
उर्दू में तशरीह नहीं होती, लेकिन मतलब पोएट्री तो बस ऐसा सवाल होता है और कुछ नहीं होता.
तो ये उर्दू आसान है, मुझे याद ही नहीं है उर्दू सवाल.
A lot of people in like schools, they do not like in specifically in my school, people don't like arts because like our arts teacher, she just is like draw on the board. She draws on the board. She says, "Draw this. The shape should be perfect." I don't think it should be like that. Art is meant to like enhance your creativity. So I don't think it should be that line to line. It should be straight. It should also be modified by every person who is like making that thing. And art isn't all about that. Art is also poetry. It's also singing. It's also plays.
So that's a very good point. And when I was in LGS in my older school, till 8th class, I hated art because the teacher would come up, paste some pictures. You gotta draw this. You have the homework. You gotta draw that. But when I came in O levels, our art teacher was fabulous. She was so good. She taught us how to do shades, how to make curved lines, how to do faces. She taught us every step, and that made art way more interesting than any other subject.
So I think the takeaway from this whole experience is that sometimes subjects are like badly shaped, but they can be molded into something good if the teacher is good. Like for example, if the teacher knows how to make something interesting, then that can happen. Like for example, my computer science teacher, she is very good. Like she teaches everything in a much more like comprehensive way. And that's I think that matters most because computer science is a hard subject for basic level like students, especially coding. Though it's very fun, we should try it out. But like it's hard for basic level students, so if the teacher is good, then that makes a huge difference.
At first I loved math because my math sir was so good, he explained every single step. But now I hate it because my math sir comes in and then says, you gotta do this homework, there's 7 questions and I'll check this tomorrow. I hate that. Why wouldn't I even want to go to school when I just go up and look at the YouTube and say, I want to do these questions and show me the questions. You gotta teach me in the school. I sometimes argue with my father. Like he just comes up and says 7 questions, do the homework, and I'm like, why do we even go to school? I can do that at home. Why do you give me homework? Just teach me the damn thing. Why do I go to school?
That I think is a very major problem. Like a lot of homework without like any major explanation on what to do. Like even our maths teacher, she was like, she would very briefly explain the subject, and then like in homework she'd give like 10 questions, 8 questions, and then like everybody were like, why? Why do we have to do this? I think that math is a very important subject, but if it's important, it should also be like taught in a very like comprehensive and good manner, unlike that briefly explained do this.
But like just to interject, rather than we've talked about the school system, we talked about teachers, we've talked about subjects. But I feel like we haven't talked about students, because sometimes, like you said, the teachers are very good. Like my maths teacher in the beginning of the year, she was very good, but the students sometimes are so annoying. Like nowadays, she's so annoyed by everything.
Yeah.
Like her waqt, she's so angry because of the students. I feel like rather than simply just criticizing the school system, we should also think that sometimes the students are very.
Why are the students annoying? If
Because they feel like
the students are annoying because they are not interested in the damn topic. And
sometimes they don't want to learn. For example, I have a child in my class. He doesn't do anything in class because he knows that I will half an hour academy mein padh lunga and I will learn the same things. That is not how you're supposed to spend your time in school.
And also
when you paid like 40 to 50,000 per month for a school, you're supposed to study in it, not use it for only socializing. Like, yes, socializing is important in school, it's one of the main assets of school, but it's not only socializing, you're supposed to learn things.
My chemistry sir comes up, and whenever a kid does not focus on class or anything like that, he says, बेटा जब बाद में देने पड़ेंगे ना वो academy के पैसे, तुम्हारे माँ बाप तेरे पास आके कहेंगे कि क्यों नहीं पढ़ाया इसको, क्या कह रहे हैं मेरा बेटा. So that's a very.
I would like to include a point. I don't think that school should be like copy pasting from the board. It should more be like in grammar. The teacher says that read this paragraph and take out the lines, modify it. That's how grammar works. That's how I think other things should also work. Not like copy paste from the board and then copy paste from the book. Modify it into your own words and then do it. That way your creativity will also be enhanced.
I like that thing because I don't have to use my brain. I just copy paste from the boards. That's but that's not good because I pay to go to school and I'm wasting my time over there and my money as well.
Sorry to cut you early. One thing from that point is कि sometimes there are things that you have to copy. Like जो मैंने इस्लामियत की बात की थी ना, उसमें इस्लामियत में of course सब कुछ copy करना is pretty useless. लेकिन there are some things जो for example hadith.
Yeah, like I think it should just be done.
Maths जो है, वो तो आपको board से copy करना पड़ेगा जो teachers लिख रही हैं because you don't know how to like actually do a question. तो मैं अभी कोई क्वेश्चन दूँ इस चैप्टर का जो मैं आज तक नहीं पढ़ा, मैं बताऊँ मेरा किस तरह करना है. Can you do it?
Okay,
I actually try the question myself first time.
I think
that's of course.
I never use a rough book.
Classes का होता है ना, like for example he's in 6th class है या उसके तो at that level सब कुछ board पे लिखा होगा. But when you go to like O2, O3, 11, like FSC वगैरह वगैरह, you have to do everything on your own. You get very minimal. So yeah.
Okay, so yeah, like. You should also just do it to some extent, like Islamiyat. Just do it to some extent. Yes. If it's like some ayat or anything, then you should of course copy from the board.
Please say that to my teacher. I would love if you would say that to my teacher. If I do not write a 10 marks question about 2 pages, 2.5 pages, you do not write the question. Oh, you get 0 marks. Why did you do that?
So a question that I have is. Definitely not copy paste.
Yes.
Has anyone ever explained to you why you are going to school?
Yes.
Yeah,
that's like a question that we ask in every class to like our students. कि हम ये सब्जेक्ट क्यों पढ़ते हैं? हम ये सब्जेक्ट क्यों उर्दू क्यों पढ़ते हैं? इंग्लिश क्यों पढ़ते हैं? मैथ्स क्यों पढ़ते हैं? We know we're actually going to use it in our future lives. But then what they say is कि my history sir has a very good answer to that. Though it's not necessarily very like fantasy, it's very realistic. The answer is very realistic. It's not very good. The answer is that schools nowadays are making us corporate like workers. They're teaching us to work for like bigger like companies वगैरह. The schools are just to earn money nowadays, not to actually get education. They're turning us into corporate workers, not actually skillful citizens, which is like I think very realistic because इतने सारे सब्जेक्ट्स को पढ़ना एक साथ और you're not allowed to change anything जो बुक में है वही पढ़ना है. That's very like specific और किसी मकसद है like school वाला.
But when the school system started now, so it was the ultimate reason was that large institutions knew that they would be more powerful if their students were if their citizens were educated.
Yeah.
So that was a million, and I always ask my father, why do we even have to study history? When I go to a job interview, like they're not gonna ask me when did Babur die or when did Humayun die. My father said me that जो मुल्की अपनी क्या कहते हैं तारीख को भूल जाती है ना, तारीख उन्हें भूल जाती है. And after that it hit me with that line, and I never ever argued about it.
You argued about it last night.
I argued about studying history.
Last night.
Like there is also like a very famous saying, let the past be the past. So like why do we have to learn history?
The past is the past gonna forget you.
Pak studies history and geography, like Pakistan से बाहर भी like any country की history and geography.
नहीं वो तो
any भी country की history and geography is very important. Like it may be hard at first, but it's extremely important कि आपको पता हो कि like for example पाकिस्तान की बात करते हैं लोग, पता हो कि independence कैसे हुई, किससे क्या था, कौन थे people, because that's how some people like for example Qaid-e-Azam, Sir Syed Ahmed Khan, they have spent their whole life on Pakistan, and if we just simply don't study about them, just simply forget them, that pretty much wastes their sacrifices.
And when a person asks you about how did we get independence and you don't answer, you would be ashamed. Why don't I know that?
We don't know that America.
That's my country.
Okay, so like a lot of kids, like many subjects in maths, they're like, when will this even like be used in daily lives? Like algebra, when is that used?
Algebra is.
And there's also like there are also like many other subjects. Like I forgot a subject, but like I've barely ever like. It's so complicated, and I never think it will ever be used in life. So
maths can be used in chemical engineering or
exactly. Maths and physics are important subjects that get. Of course, there are some concepts that don't get used.
Even architectures use maths. Like
architectures only use maths.
Only use maths.
But like there are of course some concepts like trigonometry. We're not ever going to use that. Sine, cosine. We're not going to use that. That's just like a build-up concept to teach you.
Like trigonometry can also be like helpful in many like coding languages. Like in C++, you cannot like make something orbit around an axis. So trigonometry is then used to like make it like, let's say that you have something on the screen and you want something to rotate around it. Then like trigonometry can be used in C++ like that, because you can't fix, where my knowledge is, you can't fix anything to like go at a certain extent and then orbit something or rotate around something.
Yeah, that's true. So see, we found a thing that is used for. Everything is used for.
It's useful in
unless it's Urdu, everything is used for it.
No, Urdu is also useful.
Like,
I believe that studying in school till some extent is important. After that, it's just useless.
Yeah,
after
like
that, it becomes useless.
But like I think that Urdu is useful.
But it's also like Islam mein bhi hai ki you need to study. Education.
You need to study, but after that you specialize in the subject. Now in one subject, study this general subject till some extent, but after that specialize in the one subject.
In like school, of course, till like at least 10th grade, the teachers are like, don't use the calculator, use your mind. But like the calculator, you can quickly do it. Like let's say that you have to calculate.
Yeah, but like of course,
you have to calculate something.
That is important. Like for like choti classes,
but
using a calculator pretty much kills off the whole maqsad of maths.
Yeah, but like that's the thing. Why do you need it? Just like learn maybe counting and then like how to multiply.
But like of course, body class mein you need a calculator. You can't do sine cosine without it. You can't do.
Yeah, like when I was small, I always cried when it came to table. I hated remembering table, but now I do remember it easily. And small kids do need to learn.
When I was a child, you mean?
When I was a child, when I was a young child. So younger kids, they do need to learn maths, and they do need to do it without calculator, because it helps a lot. Because when I usually use calculator a lot now, I cannot solve simple things. That's just the side effect of that.
Yeah, so now a question that I have is, do you really like waking up like so early for school?
Yes, that's a problem.
It's like,
but it's
not. The thing is, why they do that is to teach discipline. Discipline is important in our life.
You see, it's very annoying. It's one of like actually the top one reason why I don't like school. It's a very short list. I don't like it too much. but it's the top one reason as to why I don't like
No, like,
school.
why not?
But I think it's important in such a way that you learn time management, you learn discipline, you learn like for example,
Yeah, like-
today I was a bit late, or जो my coordinator when she was studying outside, और उन्होंने बोला कि like आप इतना late आए हो अच्छी बात नहीं होती.
That's why there is
So you learn to अब Monday से मैं जल्दी जाऊँगा, so that means कि it works.
Okay.
You're
So-
more flexible when like आपको थोड़े से time limits दी जाए.
But like there's like sleeping actually helps your mind, and then also it helps regenerate the cells that have been broken down.
But yes,
so
but
why
like-
waking
you
up?
see?
so
No,
early?
but
When
8
you-
hours of sleep is enough.
Yes, when you sleep after like maximum 1 hour, your body goes into a phase called the REM sleep.
Yeah.
REM sleep. That is the
Rapid eye
only.
movement.
That is the actual only important part in sleeping. After like REM sleep finishes up, there is no way. Like it's only laziness after that. You don't need to sleep
But-
at all. Because REM refreshes your whole body, and after that, it's just you lying down like
Sure.
dead.
So I heard in a podcast that the question was, why do teenagers sleep a lot? And there was a doctor and she answered that teenagers sleep, they need to sleep a lot because their bodies are developing,
Yes.
their minds are developing, and their bodies are
Exactly.
as well developing. So they do need to sleep a
So
lot.
the bodies get tired, so they need REM sleep. And if you don't have, also रात को जाग के पढ़ना, which a lot of people do.
That's
Do
what-
not do that. That is very bad because
Until
if your body
unless-
doesn't get REM sleep, you won't be able to like. Your mind starts erasing like sudden memories. So उस वक्त आप पढ़ोगे ना, अगर एक रात जाग लिया fine ठीक है, 2 रात fine, लेकिन like 3 रात back to back जागना,
Don't
it's,
tell me that.
that is very bad because if your mind doesn't get REM sleep for like 2 to 3 days in a row, तो it keeps erasing things. जब उस वक्त like for example अगर मैं इस वक्त कुछ पढ़ूंगा 3 दिन के बाद और वो मेरा mind बिल्कुल भी याद नहीं कर सकता because it will keep removing it because वो सो ही नहीं पाया.
So I always found it funny when the teachers say like keep this thing at the back of your head, because when children, their minds are developing from the back to front, so obviously whatever they're remembering is at the back of their head.
So they are developing
Yeah.
at the back of their head,
Yeah.
and they will keep it in mind. And small kids do tend to keep very small details in their mind. And my sister is one of them. She tends to keep every single detail about every single thing.
Everyone of Ali's crying.
So I think it's time to wrap up this podcast. So we've got the answer of why do we even go to school. We got to learn more about each other, the history of school, what are the disadvantages of school, what can schools like improve in themselves, and if you've got any other personal opinions, you can leave them in the comments. You can also give some other ideas.
Also tell us about your perspective of why do we even go to
Yes.
school.